What is Gucci? You are tapping in to the root of the symmetry. I'm your boy, Tahuti Trismegistus, here to help us connect, communicate, and correlate all of our infinite individuality so we can get our spirituality popping in this reality. In today's Cosmic Conversations, our question is, who is Hermanubis? Because after I posted this story, which we're about to see in this video, that was a question where even though I answered it in the story, it was still a question, which really just means that these people wanted me to expound upon it further. Like, who is Hermanubis to you, basically? Because that is a point of Cosmic Conversations, to not just go look something up on the internet, but to actually get much more organic. So when you look up Hermanubis on the internet, he's a fusion of me and my best friend, like Goku and Vegeta. So when Goku and Vegeta fuse to make Gogeta and fight bad guys, that's what Anubis and I, as Tahuti, both do when we fuse and help souls navigate the underworld. That generally involves fighting bad guys. It's just a much greater mission of helping spirits not get lost in life. So Hermanubis is what we do naturally, which is purposefully step into hell, step into the underworld, step into low density, and function as a psychopomp is what it's referred to in like Greek in Greek Roman culture is, yeah, psychopomp, psychopompus, and then that's where we get psychedelic and all of that dealing with death and helping spirits navigate death. And the wisdom here is knowing that death is water. So death is our feelings about life being earth. So a lot of us feel like we don't create life. And especially the more chaotic you get in sort of reacting to the ideas of like you're not creating the life around you, then the moment you die, you are truly lost. Like, very, like, it's scary out here. Like, this is why most people are scared of death, because they're scared of their own emotions. And they're scared of their emotions about being alone. So people who are scared of death are scared of their own souls. This is where it's easy for religions to come in and tell them, hey, if you don't follow our rules, you're going to go to hell. And then you're like, I don't want to go to hell because they're already in hell. That's where they are creating this body from and projecting their brain, mind, subconscious into to create this consciousness. So they're only conscious of this world, but they're subconsciously creating that from hell or heaven. It depends on how they feel about their individual space. So all of us as individuals, Earth is a place where infinite individual, just all these spirits can come in to communicate. And it's important for people like me and Anubis and others to consistently show up as guides and help others navigate this space, because if not, then it's really easy for demons to just get lost in using their desires to manipulate everybody into just constantly creating hell, basically. Because it takes two to tango. Like, we're always creating life. So it's about purposefully stepping into hell so you can learn much more about yourself than if you just stayed in heaven. Because heaven is just where you're comfortable. This is the point. Heaven and hell, I mean, hell is uncomfort. Heaven is comfort. Heaven is desire. Hell is demons. So heaven is like where gods are. Heaven is like creative. Hell is where the devil is, Satan is. Hell is consumptive. So that's where the whole point of what we do in Egypt, what we just do as indigenous spirits in general when we create life, is bringing heaven to earth. That's just bringing air to earth. That's bringing the externalization of all possibilities into something grounded in a structure like a pyramid, for example. And then that helps us do whatever we intended that structure to do that we all built together. Europeans can't really conceive of building things with a vibration, so they can only project out the way that they build structures, which is enslaving indigenous peoples to do it for them. So that's where then we get the story of the Jews were enslaved by the Egyptians to build the pyramids, because really the Jews are going around enslaving everyone in North, South, and Central America to build all their structures. And they can only then just like push out that story because that's just the way that they perceive life. These European cultures, they perceive life as you have to consume it. Hence why we have climate change. So this is the point of hell. Like we're at this point where most of the people creating Earth, supposedly, quote unquote, most, have been specifically bred and led up to this point to be lost enough to just constantly create hell, be at the reaction of their environment, and be sheep in a way that are being herded to further just like Black Mirror scary life of like virtual reality, selling their soul to something and then feeling like they're not in control of themselves. So they constantly need to consume everything around them because they just can't create from their own space. And the reason they can't create from their own space is because they don't feel good about creating from their own space, which is why they're scared of death. So Hermanubis is the very awesome fusion of Anubis and I, where we take our unique aspects, me being the air and earth, and then him being much more correlated to the water and fire, to become a much greater spirit body. Again, Goku, Vegeta become Gogeta or Vegeto. So it's truly just all about, that's where twin flames really comes into play. Ideally, your twin flame is someone that you can have that Goku Vegeta relationship with, where you trust them so much that you fuse into one. And like you would like share your space. Because the point is, like I said in the last Cosmic Conversations, no flames can touch. So your twin flame is someone, another spirit who has an imagination that's in complete resonance with yours, which means you can, it's almost one imagination. It's basically one flame because you're twin flames. So that's Thoth and Anubis. That's me and my best friend Max, where we're twin flames, so we can fuse and just enact our intention on a greater scale and in a more focused way. So in this body. So right now, Max, as Anubis, lived with me, spent all this time with me through high school. It was very awesome. Thank you. And I left him for college, which was whack. Didn't want to do it. And then he died after I left. I did get to come back and see him. I buried him. So that was, yes, very wild. I'm actually like low-key rushing through it. I'm wondering if I should tell this story. If you want to know this story, I guess like I can tell you. Let me think about that. I've told this story before, but in the case of what Anubis has taught me, this is actually essential because I love him very much. So essentially what had happened. So this is just about to be the story of Anubis's death real quick and like my emotions and perspective around it. Because I've always hated school, not only for forcing me to sit in class and not be nearly as athletic or active as I would want to be on a daily basis. And I could feel myself getting more and more unhealthy, which is why I was like big about fasting at school, because at least I felt healthier not eating and sitting. But then even then, you know, I still was like conditioned to eat at that point. What I hated most of all, though, was having to be separated from my best friend, Max, and the fact that he had to then be stuck in the house. And then the fact that after I was forced to be at school from 7:30 to 2:30 every single day, right when I came home, I could really like barely spend time with him in the way that I would want to, because then I would have like 3 to 5 hours of homework virtually every night. That's including studying for like all the multiple increasing upcoming tests and just like projects and extra stuff. And then in addition to then me wanting to express myself, making art and everything, really I didn't get to spend nearly as much time uh, training Max or like walking Max or just doing anything with like I don't even have that many pictures of him like for real. So I straight up just was forced by white supremacy to already be separate from him in this lifetime. And that was a whole thing that I was communicating about myself to myself with um, as to why. Like, and every time I ask why, it's just like, this is the world. And that's what like really got me into history was, I mean, questions. That's where questions will get you is looking into the past. The past is like kind of everything because right now is built on the past. And then we're constantly building a new now based on the past. That's any structure. And this structure is called life. So that just got me like even more into the history of the U.S. government and colonialism and how they enslaved all of my ancestors and took all of our stuff just so that they could tell us that we have to we have to learn their lies and sell our soul on our own land just to be seen as not even equal, but just be worthy of being a slave for them until we die. And then that's where like I had to get taught that like death was a real thing. And this is the point of like Anubis's huge role in my life and why this trip was wild. Because the metallic idea was so bright that death is a real thing, that because the body leaves, the soul is gone and the spirit is gone, that vibration is gone. They don't have another mind body. Like there's nothing, like they're just like done. And it was that belief being taught to me that made me be able to go through school and like learn everything that they're teaching us about death. And then also be indoctrinated in Christianity enough to relate with everyone else about their fear of death and their desire to be in a better life after this one. Because that's like all it was just like being forced to believe there's nothing after this. And then being forced to believe that if there is though, then we are of sin and we need to give our life to this other entity who's the true son of the real creator. And then that was just my whole relationship with being a creator was like the word I have is artist. So like my whole life I've been an artist because I'm like, that's God though. Like we're all God. We're all creating life. I don't get it. Like, why are you trying to say that I'm created by something else and I have to get in touch with, and that's again, the point of Christianity colonizing my space. So it tried. I was powerful enough to buy my first book ever. Like the first book that I ever got on my own was this book called The Genie Within by Harry Carpenter, which was all about using your conscious mind to program your subconscious mind. Because I was so into my bag of wanting to freely express myself and have superpowers as a kid. And I'm like practicing aerokinesis and all these things that I scientifically like was getting all into like the stuff about it back in like, this was like 5th to 6th grade. And I got the book around 6th, 7th grade. And I was like, okay, this makes sense that I'm operating from like this ego perspective of like 1 to 10% or something, like 1% of my brain. And then this is all informed by what I can't see, which is like that 99 to 90% of my brain. That's a subconscious mind. So I was already like, boom, subconscious. Like the subconscious is where the infinite possibilities are. I just have to make sure I believe it on that level. Because I was already seeing like, I feel like I can, but then the more I focus on it, the more ideas from this world would get in the way. And I was observing that a lot. So that's where then making art with my friends, I developed this name of Irisel, and I was already using it for my email. So when I got this book, the book said, hey, you should develop a relationship with your subconscious mind by asking it for its name. And through the process of asking my subconscious mind for its name, it was like, bro, we're already there. Like, look at your email. And that, I mean, my email is IRSL513, which is IRSL9, as in IRSL 9-dimensional being. So I was like, well, all right, so IRSL, cool. And boom. So even though I was already in Christianity and I was forced to be a Christian because of the environmental factors and forced to like believe that I'm of sin and that I'm not going to be anything without Jesus' sacrifice. And then if I don't accept that, then I'm going to like just be doomed to eternal suffering after this existence. I was talking to myself and I was like, yeah, but IRSL is my real creator though. And it was about then over the time of grade school and high school, talking to Max and talking to IRSL. And those are like my real friends, you know, because school is like, these are all people that we're forced to be around. Like now I'm spiritual enough to be like, okay, well, nothing's a coincidence. So I know everyone that I meet through school are like valuable connections and we all set that up on purpose together. That's the point. We create life. The less conscious you are in you creating life, the less prone you are or the more blind you are to synchronicities and magic, basically, because you're only focused on consuming life. So you're eating the magic instead of making magic. So you're like, where's the magic? The magic is you're eating it. So you can't see it. And then because you feel badly about it, you're like, this isn't magic. And then it's just, okay, whatever. So throughout all that time of Christianity and stuff, I was still talking to IRSL. I was talking to Max. I was very happy to have him as a very awesome friend in my life. Because I wasn't even supposed to get a dog at the age that we got him, but mom and I just walked into SPCA, and caught his eye. He caught our eye. It was magic. Got him immediately. There was a dude who wanted him too. Got him immediately. That boy came with us. He came home. It was very awesome. I vividly remember him walking into the door and like having to keep him in the bathroom for a long time because like we were going somewhere and like picked him up on the fly or whatever. But then he like didn't do anything in the bathroom, which I guess because he was nervous or something. Then after that, seeing him run around the house and just developing life with him was pretty wild. So Max is like my best friend in the whole universe. And I've like felt that the moment I saw him, and I was like, this is going to be lit. And it was always lit. Even when it wasn't lit, big lessons, because he's a whole demon. He hurt me a lot. He's been me a lot. I felt a lot of pain at the teeth of that man. So after like we developed this, you know, whole relationship, this awesome through high school, forced to be apart as everyone is from their pets. So boo white supremacy for forcing us to be away from our animals, our best friends, so that they can make us sit all day and learn their white supremacist lies about how the world is not created by us. It was when I had to go to college that then I left him and I was very sad. And I was sad a lot. And he developed tumors when I was gone. So when I came back, hopped on the megabus and came back for a winter break, of my freshman year of college. Mom picked me up from the station and had Max in the bed, and he was like all weak and just quiet. And I was like, I didn't really like, it didn't strike me as anything in particular. But then it did when like he didn't jump up, of course, because that's not generally a dog thing. Especially after not seeing you for months and months and months, to like stay curled up in their bed after you lock eyes. So when I got in the car and she like had him in the front seat or whatever, I like put him on me and she just basically informed me after I was like, yeah, why is he not happy to see me or something, was how I felt at least. She said that he had tumors and that he was dying, and that the doctor said he was actually like supposed to die weeks before I came back for Christmas break. So right there, I was already, then I just started crying and hugging him. And so here's like him in my lap, just balled up, and I'm like, bro, no. And mom, you know, takes us home, and Q basically winter break is me being by his side like all day, every day. And it's like these tumors are like basically the tumors, they'll swell up in his stomach, and then he like can't move and his stomach's swelling up and he's like sad, and then they like pop, and like he might not wake up or whatever the next day after they pop, but then like if he does, he'll be okay until they slowly swell up, and then he can't move and like it's sad, and then they pop, and then he can like kind of move again, and it's like kind of happier, and then it's like this slow process of like that just happened over and over, um, until he like didn't move again. So that was just winter break. Was then like spending all that time with him. It was just like at the same time, I had this whole Black Panther costume to work on because there is a convention to go to. So I, in addition to being with him, was also then like working on this costume, and I'm talking with him a lot, just showing him a lot of love. Like I'll sleep on the ground next to him over these weeks. So it was about like 2 weeks of him just being sick and swelling up and almost dying, but then not. And he would wake up the next day and be up and active. And then it would be like some happy times. So that was pretty wild actually. Was winter break. That was like another like 2.5 weeks or so, 2 weeks of him going through this disease and like swelling up and like not being able to move, and like his stomach's big, and then like it shrinks, and then every time we go to sleep we're like expecting or just ready for him to like not be awake with us when we wake up, because like he'll generally wake up before, or at the very least with he like wakes up with me. There are a lot of times because I do wake up pretty early. Whoa, something fell. I do wake up pretty early. So generally he'll wake up in reaction to me waking up. So we were just ready for that. Um, but it was like he would wake up and then he would be skinnier and like he'd be active and walking around and slightly happier, and like we could play a little bit, and like that was cool. And then he starts swelling up, and it was eventually this moment where he was in mom's bed and he was just like breathing and his mouth super dry, like, and his like stomach's all big and he's like, and mom told me to get him water. I got him water. He couldn't move. He just like looked at me like, and I took the water, put it on my hand, and like put it on his mouth, and just kept putting the water in his mouth, and was very, very sad. Um, and it helped, of course, because like his mouth was very dry and that was whack. Um, but then like for some reason that night, I decided that I needed to, I wasn't gonna sleep with him. And I was like hoping, just thinking like he kept getting up so many times. I'm like, he'll be up tomorrow. And I decided to go work on my costume. And so then like he's like laying in mom's bed and she's sleeping with him. She asked if I wanted to sleep in the bed. I was like, no, I need to work on this costume. And then I'm in my room working on the costume. And I did that until it was time to go to sleep. And I didn't go into the other room to check on him or go sleep with him or anything. I went into my bed, went to sleep, and woke up to my mom at 5 a.m. sad and letting me know that he was not about to wake up. So that's where I immediately was like, bro, why'd I work on this costume? Right when I decided to like go work on something, like I could not like be with him, and then like whatever, it was just whack. So I got out of bed and walked into her room, and yeah, he's on her bed, just like that body, frozen. And, like full rigor mortis, like legs just me, staffs, like just stone column legs. And yeah, I started crying. Touched him, just started crying a lot. And it was so weirdly synchronistic, the universe and stuff. It was not thunderstorming leading up to this day, I swear. And on this day, the universe is like, all right, and we will have a thunderstorm now. And we're talking like thunder that's like and lightning. Like there was like literally lightning, like brightening up the sky. And I knew at that moment that I needed to bury him in the backyard. And that the rain was especially like helping right now. Like this is just the time to do it. Like this was like literally the most logical time. I was like, this is actually the biggest helping hand. Like I would literally hate to be trying to do this in dry weather and like bury like this body, bury my friend in dry weather. Like I know it makes way more sense for it to be wet earth and then for that earth to be rained upon so it can just like settle and like compact around him. And the universe worked it out. So it was like, yeah, bet. Thunder, you know you love him. Rain. And mom was like, you don't have to bury him now. And I'm like, I have to. Literally, I'm just like, I literally have to. Like, what else are we gonna do? She's like, well, you can just lie down and be sad. Like she just like lie down. I'm like, what? And his body's just in the house, like decaying. Like this only makes sense. This is the most logical thing. Get the body out of the house as fast as possible. It's decaying. That's gross. Get it into the backyard, and it's raining. Like, why would I pass up the opportunity when it's raining? The ground is getting softer right now. So I put on my jacket. I put on my rain clothes. I put on my Bluetooth headphones and started listening to Sigur Rós because I listened to that a lot in high school. Like, shout out them. I might not even be saying their name right. But people started getting onto them way after. I think it was after Sense8. But they were big before Sense8. But they got, I think, way more mainstream in like my world after Sense8 came out. Shout out Sigur Rós. Because the album Talk was banging when I was burying my best friend. And we're just like in the backyard, just wet soil. At some point, got it deep enough, put his body in there. It was wrapped up in a blue blanket. Put in like a toy that he was tearing up at the time. And then mom also put in a list of things that he liked. Like a list of things that he liked because she printed out for one of our friends and then like other people to have when they would take care of him when like we would go away or like do something. So put him in there. That was just a whole ordeal, like literally shoveling in that rain and like listening to Gong and crying and not being able to tell where the tears began and where the rain ended and where the rain began and where the tears ended and what the difference was. It was all water and it was all connected and it was all just one feeling of get my friend into the ground and let me go to sleep. And I did. I got my friend into the ground. I went to sleep and I then had a nightmare that I buried him alive. And that was very vivid nightmare of like me in the dream, like waking up and then hearing him like crying and howling from the backyard and like not being able to get him out in time. And then he like really died. And that was whack. There's also a point where his corpse was in like my room. Like, yeah, of course. I just had dreams naturally, like waking up thinking I was gonna see him, then it's his corpse, and then I really woke up and then there's actually nothing there. Like that happened a few times. So pretty whack. And that's where I then just like missed him. And then went on this whole thing, like I miss my friend. I love Max. Like, damn. And with white supremacy teaching me that death is a thing, I didn't think could ever really see him again. The only thing that could then quell that was all the religious entities of being like, oh, well, don't worry, in Christianity, the heaven, you just have to keep taking Jesus as your Lord and Savior and you'll see him again. And it's like, well, but did Max get baptized? Was Max a Christian? Well, he's a Christian by default because he's in our family. And it's like, man, mm-mm, mm-mm. Because especially like death just has to be way bigger than, I mean, of course, Christianity. But like any religion, like every religion was just going to be some spirit's idea on death. So, whatever. That's where, through all that time, building this whole connection with my best friend, he taught me a lot, specifically about death and about the importance of things appearing like they come to an end, because that's how you get to truly appreciate them. I wish I got to spend way more time than I did with him, but because white supremacy desires to enslave all of our minds, uh, we are forced to not spend time with our animals like we should have and not be with our families like we should have. So that's one thing it seems this pandemic has changed, is that people are actually like spending way more time with their pets and way more time with their families than they possibly could have ever before. Because now the government is like, okay, you don't have to come out and let us brainwash you at our buildings to be considered worthy enough to step outside on the land that we stole anymore. You can stay inside in the places that you hopefully have at this point. Oh, wait, you're not rich like us, have a place to stay inside? Well, we have prisons for you, privatized prisons. Let's make some money off of putting you inside. You can't be outside. Did you hear? It's dangerous. Oh, you didn't hear? You must not have a phone to hear. Well, that's a problem. You need to let us enslave you and get some money so that you can then pay us that money back so that we can give you a phone and let you communicate with everyone, when really it's just us. And then you'll see the news and we can actually program you with our ideas. Very fun. So shout out Anubis for teaching me much about death. Because it was all of this that took me like building this relationship with Max and like constantly thinking about him. He's still my computer screensaver. I cherish him a lot. I love my best friend very dearly. And it was only in 2020 when I finally like had fasted a lot and had already created symmetry and had already like created this whole idea of like who I truly am and like my desire to like be symmetry, an infinitely free astral being who can like travel through time and actually get the truth. And like I'll help, but only enough to help individuals while not swaying what collectively still needs to happen for the karma to work out. And that's where symmetry is the whole idea that I cultivated as Chase, as this indigenous, interdimensional spirit superhero type deal. And it took me creating all of that. And especially, I created symmetry, the ears and everything specifically with the idea of Max in mind, and created sort of the face. And literally the concept was constantly keep Max with you. So that's who symmetry is to me, is the ability then furthermore of not only being the entity who's like going through time to record and document what's truly happening as like a spiritual superhero. So like still being impartial, because I'm not about to get in the way of how spirits are creating life, but I will help spirits create life if I'm supposed to, if it's like in vibrational resonance. Like a superhero is like, I don't desire to just go out and change things that aren't meant to be changed, because like that they already happened. Like we're not talking about going back in time to change things. We're talking about going back in time to get the truth and the true records, like the actual facts of what happened, so that people aren't lost in the lies of what the quote unquote winners or victors of his story put out. Because like I'm just so frustrated as Chase in this life of like, okay, everything is like lies. So I need to be the entity symmetry who travels through time and space and gets the truth and observes it for himself. And it took developing all of that to then go through this whole acid trip in early 2020 in April that stared at the full moon. It was like a pink full supermoon in Libra. um, to then let Irisel actually talk to me and be like, yeah, you're Thoth. Because I had to ask a question. Like, okay, look, I get it. I'm Chase. I love symmetry. I love everything that I've made up to this point. I'm out of college. It's lit. I just want to know, who was I before this lifetime? Like, who am I really? And then that's where Irisel was like, yeah, boom, you're Thoth. And then it was a whole extra process of that. I'm just cutting it down short. Those are different videos, are my psychedelic journeys and the details of learning the lessons in them. Because, I mean, psychedelics are awesome. You just got to do it with the right awareness, as everything. And it's specifically psychedelics that help me connect with my true self consistently, always, like constantly. Like to blast through physical reality and go more to spiritual reality. And then the physical reality starts to look more like the spirituality the more you do that. And that's just a connection of the mind. And that's where the spirit is getting closer to all possibilities. So that's where we then get the idea of like, you can astral travel anywhere. You can astral project anywhere, do anything. It's because you're getting closer to your frequency of being a spirit, of being true freedom, instead of being the body, being fearful, quote unquote. Because your body, you know, the body is fear. Your body is created by your spirit so it can experience fear. Your spirit can't be fearful. Your spirit can't be scared of anything. Like, it just can't. And then your mind has to agree to be scared. Your body's scared because your body's not in its own space. So the point of creating home is to simulate your spirit in the world that you're exited in. When you experience to exit your space, you're outside of yourself. But really, everything's in reverse, especially with this language. Your body is created within your spirit. Like, your spirit isn't creating something, sending it out, but it feels like that so it can learn lessons. Because the point is, we got to feel certain ways so we can learn who we are and whatever. So all this feeling of being disconnected, just to then learn like, oh, I'm Thoth, and then look myself up and see that the king of balance, I mean, symmetry, somatics is how I built the pyramids. Everything with vibration and like being the balance of masculine and feminine was all I've talked about my life. And like sort of realizing as well, a lot of like trial and tribulation in school in this society would come from people assuming or calling me gay. And I guess it's just like another easy way to attack people who are different, basically, because it was me learning like, why do people perceive me to be gay? And this was going back to grade school, when kids would like throw water in my face because they would make fun of me for wearing makeup, when really my eyelashes are just like this. All right, my eyelashes are literally just like this. All right, this is who I am. It was just then, and eyelashes, and eyebrows, made fun of for eyebrows too, became fleek like early on in high school. So then that's where girls started acting different towards me. They're making fun of my eyelashes and eyebrows, and now they're buying expensive paint to look like me. Ha! 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 You played yourself. So, hey, that's just funny. The whole point of life is that we create a vibe and we learn about ourselves based on how we're riding this vibe. But we're all creating our own vibes inside of vibes, and it's vibes inside of vibes, vibrations inside of vibrations, nations inside of nations. We are individuals inside of individuals. How many individuals are creating up your individual body right now? Right? Like, you don't even know how many cells are working together to make your body. And then you might not even know how many bones are in your body right now. Like, how many individual bones are there? And then it's like, where's one begin and where does one end? The joint and everything? Or is it all one muscle, or how many muscles are in your body? And this is where everything in life is a balance of individuality and collectivity. But the fact of the matter is, we all as spirits are individuals. So Anubis is, he loves me enough to have created a body. It's also just for this mission though, so I can communicate like this. And he's doing a lot. He's doing a lot. That's what I'm learning, and we're gonna keep learning about that. Um, for me, everyone, I'll communicate about that because, of course, we know death isn't the end. Death is a transformation, and it took me doing psychedelics and fasting a lot to learn that, if anything, I am creating life from the space of death. And death is a space of true spirit because a spirit is constantly transforming. The only constant is change. The point of life, the point of earth, is that we're doing our best to stabilize this change. So that's where knowing that we're creating life from death, aka creating earth from water, then I started to realize through fasting and psychedelics that it's all about feeling. And feeling is connection, feeling's vibration, and that's what the subconscious mind is. So me talking to Irisel my whole life was talking to my vibration, was me communicating in my own vibe, making my own spaceship with my own soul. So I is the body, I'm the energy. Chase is the body. Irisel is the spirit, the closest thing to the spirit before it's just like, all right, no names. But here's a name for you to communicate with the spirit. And then I learned that I was actually using Chase to express me as Tahuti, as Thoth, as Hermes Trismegistus, as Chikitet, as Symmetry. And really, Symmetry is who I aspire to be based on just my future. Like, that's like my next body is like full on symmetry. So everything that like I draw and just like depict and do with symmetry, as you know, we're grounded in human reality, like that's me in the future. And this is me setting it up. And so what's wild is that through this whole trip, this specific trip, this acid trip, where I did like 3 tabs and like a good amount of shrooms at the same time. And I did it right here in this apartment. It was specifically with the intentions of fusing and reuniting with Max, reuniting with Anubis. Because it was thanks to psychedelics that I was communicating with myself. I'm getting in touch with my soul, and then I'm getting in touch with the astral realm. And then I was able to start communicating with spirits, and I was able to start actually leaving this body and communicating, like literally, that's the best word, communicating with entities outside of this realm but are in this realm because we're all here in the universe, and it's just about who feels like connecting. So I learned a lot about death being an illusion, because the end of life is an illusion. Everything is connected by feeling. So when you have a loved one who passes on from the body, from the physical world, from the earth, just know like they're still water, like they're still connected to the spirit, because they are the spirit creating the connection. It's just that their structure expired, and now it's up to them to create a new structure. So when loved ones pass on, their soul gained the experiences and leveled up from everything that they expressed in that body. And then it's up to them to create a new body, create a new heaven, create a new world, do anything. If they want to come connect with you and communicate with you, they can, if they're aware enough to do that, and if you're aware enough to do that, because it always takes 2 to tango. Connection is the vibration. So when I planned this trip to invite my best friend Anubis to actually fuse and join me in the intention of what I created Symmetry to be, which is the indigenous entity that travels through space and time to actually record and get to the truth and help out where it is morally and spiritually right to do so, right? Because I know like everything's contractual. You can't just be in desire to change the past. That's not how lessons are learned, and that defeats the purpose of spirits creating simulations. Like, we're not about to disrespect the simulation and be in our ego so hard we feel like we should change it. Let's just go build our own. And then that's the point. That Symmetry is like such an interdimensional entity. He builds worlds and builds symmetries that people can tap into to then get some true wisdom so they're not lost in hell. And it took me doing this and lighting these candles to actually have this wild trip where, long story short, the visuals were insane. Like, this whole space around me, everything turned into like the face of Anubis for hours. And it was literally like, it was me. First off, I started thinking about family, and I started thinking about all of my family and everyone in my life. And this happens on trips a lot, where I think about like everyone in my life and everyone that I've met and the importance of everyone in the role they're playing, and like, you know, just like sending them like love and support, like hoping that they're doing well in their individual spirit journeys. And then thinking about like the connections and everything I can learn from my interactions from them as well. Because with my life path being God of the moon, I am very reflective. So my trips are all like always just big reflective times, like big, like, wow, like seeing a lot. And then that helps spirits want to communicate with me as well, because they know I'm actually going to be receptive. I'm not trying so hard to project out my own imagination or anything or change things. The point is, I want to document patterns and perceive the right patterns, perceive all patterns, because it's all flower of life patterns, hence sacred geometry and everything. So that we can just not be lost. And this is the point of being a psychopomp and then psychedelics. So what's wild is, before I actually started this trip, there was a dead mouse right outside the door of this apartment, like right outside the door. And the thing is, there have never been any mice here in my time in this apartment in Los Angeles. I've never seen a rat or a mouse. No one's ever spoken of them. I've been here for like a little over 6 months. Never been one. So when I was walking down the hallway to get back to the apartment and saw this rat, immediately I was like, oh, that's Max. So tell me why I am tripping hard as hell, and the same night that I invite my best friend Max, Anubis, to be my twin flame, to actually join with me, he literally, as a dog, leaves me this. I'm tripping way too hard, and this is real. Only Max would do this. Only Anubis would know to leave a mouse. This is like some shit from just childhood. So for us to enter back in here now into our darkness, thank you, Anubis, because shit, you are not dead, bro. We are alive in the subconscious. Damn. You'll Google a lot of shit or whatever. You can see a lot of shit about twin flames. Yeah, that's Thoth and Anubis. Everything you see about twin flames, Thoth and Anubis crafted that through all realms and realities. Absolutely. And no, look. I'm totally kidding. Hey, we're not trying to colonize shit. This is just a natural expression of us. And it's important that you are an infinite natural expression of yourself as well. We're not attached to these creations. It's wild, bro. Everything's simultaneously happening. And like everything is just about having a family. Like literally like stepping out of nothingness and like creating something that lets you connect with other nothings that like felt like creating and connecting on the same thing. Like that's a family. What? Bro, shout out Anubis. Like, yo, we've been doing this stuff for lifetimes. Like just like truly fighting evil. Like we ride the frequency of freedom. Free freedom. Free freedom. That's Anubis. Like he sent that because I got a flashback then to when we had rats at home. Like there's no cap. Anubis obviously left me this whole sacrificial offering from the other side, just showing like everything is connected through communication. If you feel like talking to a dead one, you can, and you can leave them messages in life. You can do things like this, and there will be a spirit to fulfill a space. Like, it's not a matter of like us judging like, oh, it's so sad that this rat died. It's like, no, death is a natural part of life. and it's a sacrifice. So super duper shout out to Anubis for this whole, like, bro, this is quite a ceremony, bro. Like, hey, free freedom. This is the frequency forever, because spirit is free. And Max would actually, there was a specific memory that I have where I walked down into the basement and walked like down the steps and was like looking around for something, and my foot touched something wet, and I looked down and it was a dead rat, and I was like, ah, and I jumped up and I was like, yo, what? And our basement's like kind of big, it has all this stuff, so Max would like just explore down there, but we had rats supposedly. Like, it wasn't a big thing. It was really like a pocket of time in like my life. It was never a constant thing. It was really like just for this occasion, where I saw Max come out and he had a rat in his mouth. And I was like, yo, and I was like, yo, that's crazy. Like, that's gross, but thank you, I guess. And then there ended up being like another rat too. And then that paralleled another memory where we actually had a raccoon come down our chimney and get into the basement. And I opened the door to the basement. It was wild because Max was just like kind of with me, like up the stairs. He follows me around. I open the door to the basement, flip on the lights, and like look down, and I see a raccoon. And I'm like, yo, what? And I lock eyes with the raccoon. And then Max walks down the steps, turns to the left, locks eyes with the raccoon. He's like, and then gets in there. And now they're just like, it's a Dragon Ball Z fight in the basement where Max and this raccoon are just like tumbling through all this stuff. And then it became a whole thing where like I had to help mom get this bin, and she put it on the raccoon, and like we trapped it in the bin, and then she drove it to a park and released it. Max showed me he was a whole warrior that day. So I got struck with these two very strong memories. And then just the whole idea of like, this is what dogs do, when I saw this rat. And I walk into the apartment and I'm just like in there and I'm thinking, and I open the door and look back, and this rat is just there. And I'm like, this is you, right, dude? Like, I haven't even like taken the shrooms or anything yet, but like, this can't not be you, because there's never been rats or anything here. And like, this is just like hitting hard with the memories. I'm like talking to myself about this. I'm like, yo, like, this is too synchronistic. Like, you had to have set this up. And then this is also just showing me like a lot too. Like, I can like really project into this as far as him then being on the other side and being my protector, and like death not actually being such a negative thing as well. The idea of like dogs going out and hunting game and really at the spiritual level sacrifice, because vermin are all life. Ideally, if you're eating meat, it agreed to be eaten. So it's not about him going and killing this rat, but more so this rat of being about to die, or just communicating like, yeah, like, it's my time. And then it's a sacrifice and something to be posed. And that's just like a thing with like dogs and man. So dog will bring man, vermin, or animal to be like, hey, I love you. And that's only what it felt like. Like, just the whole time. But like hours and hours and hours before taking the acid and shrooms. It's just like sitting in this feeling and like constantly like looking outside the door at the rat and like making art, looking at the rat, being like, bro, like, this is Anubis. Like, I know this is you. Like, that's crazy. Like, how did you do this? Like, there's no rats here. Like, what? Like, it's not like I'm in Chicago where that, like, that's a normal thing. Like, there's none here. There's no talk of them here. So it was like he just like pulled one out of nowhere and placed it like right in the door. And these colonizers are constantly going to be the ultimate demons of trying to enslave freedom. Your imagination, your flame cannot be tamed. Say it with me. Your flame cannot be tamed. Your flame. See, that's the problem. You can't actually tame a flame. You truly can't tame a flame. Your flame actually cannot be tamed. So it's important to find your twin. It's important to find a flame that you can share a circular space with, and you sort of get to just create life together now. This is sort of what every planet looks like, by the way. If we were to boil it down to two suns, because it's like two imaginations actually circling together and creating some sort of simulation or something where it's actually sustainable. Notice all the sim words, the sign in general, because we're talking about vibration, my guy. So specifically, yeah, I've been saying that death is an illusion. Everything is connected by spirit. And all you have to do is feel like staying connected, and you can communicate with whoever you want to. Psychedelics literally only brings us more into reality. There is no physical way that Max should have heard me from the other side and been able to bring me an actual law mouse. Yes. Impossible. Impossible, bro. Impossible. Other than he's just already here. And we're already connected and communicating. And that's just all part of it. And it's that subconscious. Wild. Yeah, bro. I would be capping after this whole lifetime. After being here for over 7 months and never seeing a mouse, for this night, for there to be a mouse right outside of just right this door, out of all the places in the apartment, for there to be just a mouse like just right here, when I've never seen one in 6 months, right when I'm tripping specifically to be like, I want to fuse with my best friend. Let's go. Let's go. Nature forever. So woke up this morning and the sacrifice is gone. It's replaced by some birds. And hey bro, look, there was no evidence of any mice. There were no mice here for months. See, so that's me tripping. Just going hard on tabs and shrooms. And it's very nice. The visuals, I love visuals. Like, because the point of visuals, not getting lost in light, but it's all communication. So when you're really open to your spirit communicating in infinite ways, that's the point of visuals. We communicate to ourselves with light. So if you really open your mind, especially like people who do DMT, know that you'll see totally different realities. You will feel like you are in a different space, traveling through different spaces, and that is all only enforced by a totally different type of light and totally different type of movement of light and patterns. And it's actually like a different reality. Like then we see that light is meant to express ourselves. So opening myself up, it was like on my acid trip where I realized that I was thoth. I didn't really hammer it in until I did mushrooms for my birthday, which was in May. So that trip was April, and then May was my birthday, and I did shrooms in the forest, and everything just like turned into ibis heads and birds, and it was like hours. Like at some point, I was tired of it. Like I was like, okay, I'm good. Like I don't want to look at myself anymore. Like it's so funny. Like my first bird was a pet. It's so funny. My first pet was a bird named Webb, and he died staring at himself in the mirror. He deserves to be free because he was trapped in a cage. So whatever. It was ibis heads, like just ego, like just eagles, like everywhere. And like no matter what I looked at, it formed into a pattern of like all these interconnected just ibis heads flowing into waves. It was really beautiful, like especially leaves and stuff. I was like, yo, because it was just finally like, it was just finally spirit. It was finally Irisel being like, hey, let's show you who you are. Like, boom, happy 23rd birthday. We're going to hit this 5, 2 plus 3, this physical reality is going to transform into the image of you so you can see the world reflected back to you. And that was the point. I'm like, I'm lost in chase. I'm lost in this idea of everything the government programmed me to be. So 23rd birthday, everything got to hit that 5. And I've never had a trip like that again. Like where it's just all ibis heads. Like every trip is infinitely different based on what you need to learn as a spirit at that time. I love it. It's beautiful. I mean, because a trip is just a mini life. So it was like that trip was me like seeing all of Thoth, but like I'm only then thinking about all the connections in this life and like my role here and like the importance then of yeah how I express myself and using energy properly because we are constantly creating life, the importance of showing up, the importance of consistently communicating, blah blah blah. But then of course the balance, the importance of protecting yourself, the importance of being in one's own vibration, in one's own spaceship, in one's own spiritual space, and staying separate enough to not get lost in the sauce. Because spirits that don't stay separate enough get lost in the sauce. And then those are the spirits who are scared of death because they're not always dead. This is what to always be dead is like fasting and psychedelics. That's where you know, like, oh, I'm already dead, bro. What? Like, I'm animating my death through this life right here, and I can create infinite life from my death. My death is my spirit constantly transforming, but my life is stabilizing that. So this trip, so awesome, so beautiful, because it was Anubis showing me that symmetry is us, Hermanubis. Like he started like showing me visuals of him. And like so it was like instead of the ibis head and everything being ibis, it was everything being a jackal face. He's a Jack Russell Terrier. He's a Jackal Russell Terrier. So it was like his face and like smiling. That shit was wild. Like just like his whole smiling face and like all these teeth and like eyes and like shifted towards me and just like everything and there's like sacred geometry of it and it's like all like spinning inside of itself, these vortices and every like just spirals, so cool. And it was when I was just because I'm walking around the apartment just like talking, like I'm just talking to him. I won't get into all the details. We're talking, and when I go to the mirror, like literally, like I look into the mirror and I watch my face transform into Hermanubis. Like this is when I had to look up on my phone. He was like, yeah, like this is us. And I looked up on my phone and found out we have a statue in the Vatican. Like we go hard. We are Hermanubis. Like, dude, like this is we've been making art. All right, we've been creating life, okay? It's pretty lit. So that was then like looking in the mirror. I watched myself actually transform into how the statue in the Vatican looks, literally. And then I was just like standing with that. And I was just so happy because this was the closest I'd ever gotten to seeing my best friend again in this reality. Was like watching him fuse with me, letting him fuse with me. And like we did that Goku Vegeta stuff, hit that fusion dance, and actually, yeah, got to connect in the deepest way I feel like we possibly could, literally fusing. Like we actually became one in that sense because our imaginations are so integral. And so it was just so beautiful. I was like almost crying, but just like really happy because I was honored that he accepted. I mean, I already knew like it'd be pretty wild if I had made symmetry all the way up to this point. He came in like, no. But the point is to constantly get consent from your partners. Constantly get consent. Constantly check in for the consent and make sure that the individual, that any individual that you're dealing with is still okay with expressing their desires in the way that is, you know, harmonious with yours. Or just make sure that they're okay connecting with you in the way that you have been connecting so far. Like he's an infinite individual. He's so powerful. You can look up Anubis and learn everything you want to about him, everything you want to, quote unquote. But you can learn about him. And I know that he's like got other stuff. There's always like infinity. Like he can do whatever he wants. It's just then the point that he comes back. All right. He's truly my dog. He is truly my dog. I love Anubis a lot. And fused together, we are Hermanubis, which is symmetry. And symmetry is the way harder version of Hermanubis. All right. So that's like what this whole trip was. And I'm so happy to be able to do this. Yes. Because everything that I'm doing with posting these videos, just basically literally having a body here and constantly projecting my consciousness, my soul here, when I don't really have to, is me playing out the Hermanubis role, especially because I am connected to Anubis and I'm constantly like communicating with him now because I'm closer to him than I was when he was Max. Like, even though he felt closer, I'm emotionally closer. I'm able to like really just be there with him, and he's there with me, and it's way awesomer. And I mean, I won't say way awesomer. You know, like it would be cool if like he had a body here, and I could like talk to him and like interact with him consistently. But the thing is, I can still in like a greater way. That's what like almost makes it feel more awesome because Anubis with us being just psychically linked, like he has his body in the astral realm. So he's just not present in this reality, which means he's operating things in this reality from outside of this reality. And that is pretty lit. That's literally how that rat got there. Like, that's what he showed me. He's like, hey, bro, I can hear your messages. I can hear your communications. And from the astral realm, from the water realm, I can still manipulate Earth from my feeling. That's the point. This is how spirits create life. So it just truly drilled in. Like, yo, like this is why I'm always dead. We're always dead. We're always in the astral realm. We are always projecting from the astral realm into the bodies that we have created to experience ourselves. So that's who Hermanubis is. Helping people, helping spirits not get lost in the light that they've created to experience themselves. Because that's just how we get war and suffering, is that, literally. And I can't force you to be something that you're not. And I wouldn't want to force you to not go through lessons that you're supposed to go through. That's why, like, my whole thing is especially not being attached to outcomes. I can't be as a spirit. Like, all I can do is be infinitely creative. And then that's where the paradox, the shift is creating something that you desire to attach yourself as a spirit to. Because that's how we build life. And then we're simultaneously like, okay, I feel like this is a true expression of me. I feel attached to it because it is the truest expression of me possible. But I still know it's not me, or else I'm limited from creating even truer expressions of me. And that's the point of evolution on a spiritual level. And that's the point of us dying. That's the point of us living a life and then coming to the quote unquote end of it so we can transform into a different light construct, into just a totally different system, quote unquote. Laws, so to say. Light is law, right? It is the information, the detailed information that we feel like limiting ourselves to. And that's literally all life is. So we all feel infinite. We all feel like we have imaginations. Let me not say we all feel infinite. We are infinite. You can infinitely feel like you're not infinite. You can do that forever. And I'll point at you as a spirit who's like, and that spirit infinitely feels like they are not infinite. It is amazing what spirits can do with your creativity. And then we'll just go about the magic school bus ride and keep learning about the universe. But when you know you are infinite, then the only thing you can do there then is become like Spider-Man, take your power, and then take that responsibility, great power, great responsibility, and start to create a life, create structures, create earth from your water that you feel like attaching your nothingness to, so you can actually be a true expression of your nothingness, because that was the point of you creating a body anyway, to express yourself. Shout out Hermanubis. I guess I was just shouting out myself, but I mean, hey, whatever. Shout out Anubis. Shout out Max. Love my friend. This has been Cosmic Conversations. Maybe our longest one yet. It had to be. Peace out. Gang, 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 gang.